I don't know why, but whenever they sell iced tea, they fill that puppy to the rim, and so it always spills. Kind of a kind of a dangerous thing to open those up around the computer, don't you know? Good evening, everybody, and welcome, my friends, to another night of horror hump days. Hey, what's going on, Jessica? Good to see ya. Um, this actually comes in many names. Um, Hola, Kevin. Comes in many names. Sometimes it's called Sleepless Wednesday. Sometimes it's called Story Hour. Hey, Bobby. Good evening and welcome, my friend. I'm glad you're feeling better today. I hope you get that figured out, whatever issue you got going on. So tonight we are on chapter 9. Hey Beth, how you doing? We are on chapter 9 of my book Pavor Nocturnus. And after this chapter, hey Shannon, good to see ya. After this chapter, we've got one chapter left, and so thankfully, well, look at everybody pouring in. Thankfully, the last chapter is long enough that we can stretch that out for about another month and a half, maybe. So, that being said, I am I'm a little next because I am out of published material. It was story hour at your house the other day. I saw something going on. There's a cop there. So anyhow, yeah. So I'm not sure what I'm gonna do after we're done with this book. I have read through all of my stories twice now, and it's okay to recycle once in a while, but it gets to be a little monotonous for um, myself and also the listeners or the readers. And so I was thinking maybe reading you one of my favorite horror stories until I get something written out for the next book, or reading you the novel that I've been working on called The Ballad of Broken Bird. Yeah, it's not published yet, but it's a serious book. I put little snippets on this web page, on this Facebook page, and it's a little pseudo biographical. It's about a guy that gets a cancer diagnosis, and he's got about a year to live. And he, hey Chuck, and he basically sells everything he's got. His mom died, and he sells everything he got, and he hops on his motorcycle, and he travels across America. And the people that he meets are people that I have met in my life. And he's basically trying to heal his past and I guess come to terms with his ending. Read us the history of Scandinavia. No, no thanks, Bobby. Maybe I could put a spin on that, make it a little spicy so Beth won't fall asleep when she listens to it. So anyway, that's my thought process. I will probably put a prompt up as we get closer to the end of this book and have you guys vote on what you want to hear. Kevin wants to hear porn. Hey, buddy, there's a website for that, and I'm sure it's pretty discreet, and I don't know how cheap it is or how expensive it is, but Maybe you want to check that out. I don't think you'd be able to get that from me. I don't know how to write that because, again, I'm saving myself for, marriage, that type of thing. I'm still a virgin, so I wouldn't know anything about porn. So there you go. So anyway, moving along, uh, tonight's book, Pavor Nocturnus, came out in 2023, and it came about by me putting prompts out there to some of my readers to send me their nightmares, their scariest nightmare, and I created a story around each nightmare. Um, it's not discreet, they know me by name. Well, quit spending the big bucks, buddy. Quit spending the big bucks. Anyhow, so each story in this book, each chapter has been a nightmare that one of you guys have sent me, and I turned it into a story, and even one of mine is in there, which is how I started the book. Yeah. So here's the bummer about Facebook now is that they delete all live videos after 30 days. I haven't gone back to check on here to see how many of my live videos are gone. Don't tell my sugar mama. Okay. Well, hopefully she's asleep, bud, and she's not watching this. Or I'll edit this out. So anyhow, they've delete all my live streams after 30 days. But I do download these, and I put them over on my YouTube page. And you can head over there. There's a link on this page and how to get to it. If you've missed any of the chapters of this book, you can go back there. Everything's labeled by chapter for Pavor Nocturnus, and then you can get caught up. When we do chapter 10 next week, we will be revisiting those nightmares. So yeah, get caught up on the reading and all that other stuff. Yeah. Something that's very disappointing for me, for myself, is that the last few books that I've written, I've just had a real fever to write these stories out, and this time around, the fever is gone, and I'm really struggling with writing. I don't know if that's writer's block or if it's just losing the passion for it. God, I hope that's not it, because I really have a lot more stories to tell you. So, but anyhow, I don't know. It'd be really nice. See, here's something that's weird. Is every time I go to Florida to visit my dad, I can write like crazy. We don't do. I don't have a need to do anything too exciting when we go to Florida, except for I do require to have seafood at least once while I'm there. But for the most part, when I go there, I just sit on my dad's patio. I'll sip a coffee or a whiskey, and I just open the laptop and I just write. The last book we read, Thin Spots, that really took off when I was in Florida, and then the one that I was giving you a choice for me to read to you that hasn't been published yet, Ballad of Broken Bird. I really get a lot of writing on that story when I'm in Florida, so I don't know what that is. Writer's constipation. That's right, Chuck. That's what it feels like. It does. It totally feels like that. The story that I'm working on now for the horror book has been... It started off really well, and now I'm in a spot that I can't write myself out of it without it sounding too unbelievable. And actually, there's a character in there named Ken Walser, who's the sheriff's deputy. Um, yeah, so there's a. I might have to just scrap it and rewrite it. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it, but it's really slowed me up. I might work on some of the other story ideas I have for the new horror book. I might do that. So, but tomorrow night I restart my EMT classes. They're giving me a second chance. So I only have to take 3 or 4 more classes, redo my worksheets, and redo the chapter tests, and then she will give me 4 more chances to take my final again. So he has to be a cool guy. He is a pretty cool character in there. He's actually the main character's only friend in a desperate situation. So, um, but yeah, so I've got the EMT thing starting again. These are going to be actual physical classes that I'm going to be going to Ridgewater College for. So I think that might help me a lot more than the way I did it before. The way we did classes before was they pretty much just gave you a textbook and said, there you go, good luck. And that sucked because I hadn't looked at a textbook for over 30 years. So anyhow, I'm going to try it again. If I don't make it this time, then Winthrop Ambulance and myself will part company is my options if I don't pass. So I'm taking them up on this. The people hanging around you, bad influences. That could be too. I got this one friend, Bobby, that is always throwing ideas at me, and then I never have I never have a chance to work on my own projects. Huh. Anyhow, that being said, and all that gobbledygook, um, how about we jump into the story? Y'all up for a story? We're going to. The main character's name is Lynnette. She's actually somebody that I used to work with, and he sounds like an ass. No, he's a hare. Anyway, Lynnette is somebody that works at the same company I do, or did. She's retired now, and she sent me her nightmare, and I will read that to you in un momento, por favor. Let's see here. So hopefully we won't have any glitches like we did last night, because we're here at the source of all interwebs. So, all right, let's get started. Kevin, cuddle up with your puppy. Chuck, bring the badgers and the bees. Aunt Dottie's wake. I was at a funeral parlor. Me and my cousins were snooping around and went into the basement where they do the embalming, and we heard moaning, and we ran back upstairs to tell the adults, and they didn't believe us. Lynnette C.J. Everyone has a favorite aunt. The cool one who would talk to you about what it was like to kiss boys, go on dates, and go parking. The one who told your mom she was being too overprotective. The one who would sit up and watch scary movies with you when your parents were out of town for the weekend, and you could drink all the soda pop and eat all the sugary sweets you wanted. That was my Aunt Dottie. Her real name was Doris Lee Hutchinson, but everyone just called her Dot. She was my mother's only sibling, and they grew up in rural Moon Valley County in Minnesota. They were farm girls, and Mom was brought up to be a good Lutheran farm wife, and Aunt Dottie grew up to be a tomboy. She taught me how to hunt for night crawlers in the dark with a piece of red cellophane over a flashlight, where to catch sunnies and crappies out on Gibbous Lake, and how to fillet them without leaving in the bones. She took me turkey hunting once, but I got a little traumatized when it came to time to shoot a tom when I had it in my sights. She didn't judge me. She just hugged me until I finished crying, and we walked around in the woods and looked for morel mushrooms. She never married because she loved her independence. She dated and was serious with a few of those quarters, but she never settled down. A big piece of me broke when my mother told me she had been hit by an SUV when she was crossing the street to buy me a birthday present for my 9th birthday. The large SUV had rushed through a yellow light and struck her, sending her 6 feet in the air and then 9 feet back. Part of me expected this. Now it may sound strange to you, but I had a dream the night before. I was flying a kite in our backyard, and my kite had turned into my Aunt Dottie. "Auntie," I had said to her. "Hello, sweetie," she shouted in the clear blue sky. "Auntie, what are you doing up there?" "I have to go, honey. I'm so sorry. But I don't want you to worry. I'll be okay." "Are you coming back?" "I may stop in once in a while, but you won't be able to see me, but maybe sense me." "I don't understand." "I'm passing on, sweetheart. I don't know why or how, only that I'm no longer alive. But there will be times when you'll be able to know that I'm there for a visit. Maybe you'll smell something that reminds you of me, or maybe you'll just feel a pocket of cold air in just one spot." "That will be you?" "Yeah, something like that." I had began to cry in the dream, and perhaps I did while I slept too. I don't remember. I do remember waking up the next morning and asking Mom why people must die. And then Auntie Dot had expired that afternoon. I never understood why it was called a wake when you went to view a body before the actual funeral, but here we are. There was a large crowd of people at Crescent Funeral Home, some of whom I didn't know. The entire family showed up, including everyone from Dad's side of the family. It was my first death in my young life. I had never seen my mom cry as hard as she did, and she always carried that grief around with her in the background until she passed away herself. I cried myself off and on. I was still having trouble grasping the idea that I would never see my auntie again. It didn't seem real, and the casket was closed due to the condition of her body, so I never got to see Aunt Dottie in death. There were so many people saying dumb things like, "She's in a better place now," or "God needed her more than us. Another angel has been called home." I wanted to answer their stupid sayings with, "There's no better place than with us," or "God can make more people. Why did he need to take my auntie?" Or, "I thought God had an army of angels." It was all making me very angry at the big G in the sky. Thankfully, I had a couple cousins from my dad's side that had shown up. They were the same age as me and didn't say stupid things like that. Gary was the oldest of all of us at 10 years old, and his sister Kelly, Ann, at 6. We hung out in the kitchen area where there were plenty of cookies and bars and Kool-Aid, to keep us wired and away from the adults. Aunt Dottie was really good at baking. The treats they had on display here probably would have disgusted her. But beggars can't be choosers, and I was young and ate sugar as often as I could because my parents restricted it in our home. "This place creeps me out," Kelly had said, looking around. "You're such a chicken shit," Gary said. "I'm telling Dad you swore." "Whatever. You're always scared of something. You're such a spaz." "Well, it is a funeral parlor," I reasoned. "There's dead people here." Kelly felt vindicated and produced her tongue to her brother. Gary ignored her and looked around. "Do you think there's dead people here now? I mean, besides your aunt, of course." "I don't know. I guess there would be." Where do you think they keep them? Before the wake and funerals, I mean." "In the basement, maybe?" "Why the heck would you want to see where the dead bodies are?" Kelly socked her brother in the arm. Gary walked towards a dimly lit hallway. "Do you think the stairs are down here?" he asked. "I don't think that's a good idea, Gary," I said. "Come on, we're just going to take a look." I thought about it for a minute. Kelly had a definite no vibe going. The thought of seeing a dead body seemed both frightening and exciting at the same time. I found myself walking with Gary down the hall with Kelly in tow. At the end of the hall were two sets of stairs, also dimly lit. I thought it was odd that we couldn't even hear a murmur from the wake going on just down the short hallway. Gary had already descended the first set of stairs, and I took a deep breath and began to follow him. Kelly grabbed my hand tightly. "I really don't want to," she began to whimper. "It's going to be okay, Kelly," I tried to comfort her. "We're just going to take a peek and then come back upstairs, okay?" "Come on, you guys," Gary said, halfway down the second set of steps. Kelly and I walked slowly down the steps and met up with Gary at the bottom. We both gasped. Open caskets lined both sides of the room. They were empty, but they were frightening nonetheless. Even more scary, on the opposite side of the room, was an open doorway. We couldn't see what was inside of it, because there were no lights on in there. Just a depthless black that seemed to emit a coldness that raised the tiny hairs on my arm. "I bet they're in there," Gary said with a grin on his face. "It's cold down here," I said. "I want to go back upstairs," Kelly added. "Quit being a baby," Gary scolded his sister, and walked closer to the dark room. As we approached the doorway, there was a placard that read, "Preparation Room." Gary reached his hand into the room and felt around for a light switch. There was a loud snap, and then the overheads buzzed and popped on in a cold bluish light. We gasped again. There were two metal tables, reflecting that awful blue light, surrounded by jars and vials and rubber tubing. The far wall was lined with 6 square metal doors. One of them stood ajar. "What do you think?" Gary asked. "Think there's bodies in those coolers?" I shivered, thinking about my Aunt Dottie being in one of those cold boxes. "Can we go now?" Kelly asked. "No, we can't go. We haven't seen a dead body." A low moan came from the opposite side of the room. It sounded like there was a globule of phlegm in the owner's throat. We froze in place. "What was that?" I screamed. I, I, Gary stuttered. I don't know. That moan came again, and this time it was louder and sounded closer. Kelly let go of my hand and ran back to the stairs, screaming. I grabbed Gary's arm and tried to pull him. "Come on," I urged. "Let's get out of here." One of the doors banged on its hinges, and we both turned and ran. Kelly saw us running, and she darted up the steps. I barely felt the steps as I flew up them. We made it back into the kitchen and tried to catch our breath. I could still feel the cold. "What are we going to do?" I asked. I don't know," Gary said, looking about 10 shades whiter. Maybe we better tell someone." At that moment, my mother came into the kitchen. When she placed her hand on my shoulder, I jumped, what felt like 20 feet into the air. "Well, shit, Lynn," she gasped. "Where the hell have you kids been?" I didn't know what to say. Well, spit it out." "We went downstairs," Gary belted out. "We went downstairs and then heard some moaning and ran back up here." Mom looked at Gary like he had just told a crude joke, and then looked disappointingly at me. "What?" Mom said to me, and then looked over at Kelly, and then Gary. "What are you going on about?" We went downstairs," Gary said, looking down at the ground. "I'm sorry, Aunt Renee. It was my idea. I just wanted to look around. We went into this preparation room and we heard a moaning coming from one of the fridges they keep the bodies in." "He's telling the truth," I finally spoke. "It was really scary, a really scary moan." "What's all this nonsense?" It was Dad walking in. "They were wandering around the funeral home and ended up scaring themselves in the morgue, I think," Mom said. Dad kneeled down to look us in the eyes. "Listen up, kids," he said with some authority. "This day is hard enough on your mother without you misbehaving at your auntie's wake." But Uncle Dave," Gary pleaded. "That's enough. I won't tell my brother what you've been doing, but if you kids can't behave, you'll have to sit in the car." "But Dad," I said. He didn't interrupt me because I was his princess back then. We really did hear a voice down there. It was really scary. Please, can't you just come down and..." "Lynn, that is enough. Have some consideration for your mother and some respect for your aunt." I apologized to my parents, and they both went back out to the wake. The three of us didn't say a word to each other, and walked into a sitting room just off the kitchen. "Well, now what?" Gary said. "What do you mean, now what?" I spat. "Now we just sit here until it's over and go home." "Yeah," Kellyanne agreed. "Forget you two," Gary said. "We heard something. You know we heard something. Are we just going to sit around and pretend we didn't hear a ghost?" "There's no such things as ghosts, Gary," I said. "Then what was that noise we heard?" I didn't have an answer. "I don't want to get in trouble anymore tonight. This is Auntie Dot's wake, and I want to respect her, like my dad told me to." Something caught the corner of my eye. I could have sworn the hallway light flickered, and Gary noticed me turn pale. "What?" he asked. "What did you see?" "Nothing," I said. "It was nothing." Kelly's eyes got wide, and she backed away to the other side of the room. "You saw something! I know you did!" "Just drop it, Gary." And that's when the light flickered in the room we were in. We all jumped and stood up. That low, guttural moan echoed faintly down the hallway towards us. It's back, Gary said. We stood together staring at the doorway. It was cold again, and there were butterflies trying to tear themselves from my stomach. Hello, children. A man's voice came from the kitchen. We all screamed, and a man who looked older than my father stepped into the sitting room. His face was pale and waxy, and there wasn't a single emotion on his face. Thin hair was slicked back with some sort of shiny Brill cream. So sorry to have frightened you, he continued. He wore a black suit with a narrow black tie attached to a bright white shirt. Did you need some refreshments? We have cookies and brownies. No, sir, I said. We already had a bunch. Thank you. What a delightfully polite little girl you are. His smile was thin and forced. What is going on in here? It was my father again. This time he was fuming. I thought I told you kids to settle the hell down. My fault, sir, the man said. I've regretfully frightened them when I came in to check on them. And you are? Apologies again, sir. My name is Mr. Sin. I'm the proprietor here at Crescent Funeral Homes. Mr. Sin, huh? What happened to Daniel Ballard that used to run this place? Well, Mr. Ballard retired a few months back. Went to Boca Raton, I believe. I didn't realize he retired. Well, good for him. Anyhow, the kids aren't giving you problems, are they? Not at all, sir. Well, they've been acting up tonight. If they give you any trouble, come and find me and let me know, and I'll deal with them. Begging your pardon, sir, but they're young. Dealing with death is not an easy thing for children to digest. So, the grief, it comes out in different ways. Dad frowned at Mr. Sin, and then looked at the three of us. I don't want to have to come in here again, he scolded. Do you kids understand? We all nodded obediently, and Dad left. Well, children, Mr. Sin said, what seems to have you all so shaken? The light flickered again. It was almost like a strobe light, and everything in that room moved unnaturally. Nothing, sir, I said, averting my eyes from him. Nothing, you say? No, sir. It's just that funeral homes are a little creepy. I thought I saw a grin on his face. That is, until my cousin Gary spoke up. We went downstairs, he blurted out. We heard a ghost. Mr. Sin frowned for a moment, and the lights got really crazy, and then stopped. The thin-lipped grin returned to the mortician's face, and he gave a knowing glance at me, then Kellyanne, and then Gary. You heard a ghost, did you? He said. And what, pray tell, do ghosts sound like? Well, Gary began to stutter, and then turned red in the face. I really don't know. Oh, come now, Gary. Let us not be coy. Please, humor me with what you heard. Was it a low-sounding boo? Well, no, Not exactly. Maybe, just maybe, your cousins here could enlighten me. Kelly winced and moved behind her brother. Mr. Sin's gaze turned towards me, and I got cold. So cold that the small hairs on my arms began to rise. Was it something like... Mr. Sin cleared his throat and let out a low, guttural moan that chilled all of us to the bone. Kellyanne screamed, and so did Gary. I was frozen. Is that what you heard? His grin returning to those awful thin lips. The three of us were huddled together, shaking in our Sunday best. He reached out for us, and we bolted. We tried for the French doors going out to the wake, but he blocked them. Our only choice was to head down that small hallway. "Where are we going?" Kelly yelped. Gary tried to some of the doors in the hallways. There was a utility closet, an office, and a consultation room. We turned around and hoped we could make it to the kitchen, but Mr. Sin was already blocking the hallway. Our only choice was the basement stairs. We ran down into the casket showroom and hid ourselves among the open coffins. "Children," Mr. Sin spoke. This time his voice was low and a little gravelly. His appearance had changed too. His head was thinner now and went from waxy white to a pale blue. His eyes bulged in deep sockets. "Welcome to the end of the line." "You can't do this!" I shouted at him. "Our parents are upstairs! They'll..." "It would be unfortunate if I had to take care of them too, wouldn't it?" He was backing us into the preparation room. His arms stretched to an impossible length as he herded us into the room with the cold storage. Gary spotted a saw on the metal table and snatched it up, holding it out to Mr. Sin. The man's head went back at an impossible angle, and his jaw dropped open to reveal what looked like the inside of a furnace. A deep laugh rumbled from within. "What do you think you're going to do with that?" he laughed. Just then, that same square metal door that rattled flew off its hinges and clattered to the ground. I had no idea how no one upstairs heard what was going on. A pale shape slithered from the refrigerator. It held the shape of what looked like a man, and then began swirling madly, all the while groaning in that awful, phlegmy voice. We spun around, and all of us screamed. We had horror on either side of us. "Ah," Mr. Sin almost hummed. "Dinner, as they say, is served." I was thinking he was talking about us, the kids, that were the dinner. But that pale thing bounced off the walls and then struggled as something began to pull it towards Mr. Sin's mouth. Because the pale shape wasn't tangible, it had nothing to grab onto. It zipped into Mr. Sin's mouth, and that furnace inside him roared to life, and then went dim. "What?" I sat there with my jaw agape. What are you?" "My dear child," he said, wiping his mouth, "I don't know if there's a word that can define what I am. Let's just say I am a fisherman.
I I don't I don't get it.
Of course you don't. Why would you? You see, in your world, there are, I guess the simplest term would be portals. Yes, that sounds about right. Portals. They usually appear in places of death, like cemeteries and hospitals, sometimes very unfortunate homes, usually near a body of water.
So you are from those portals?
Oh, goodness, no. No, I'm from, I guess in your world, you'd say I'm from hell proper. I fish these portals. They teem with the souls of the deceased.
And you eat them?
Delicious. Their souls help me stay corporeal.
Cor
Gary wrestled with the word in his mouth.
Goodness sakes.
I forget I'm dealing with children. Many pardons, young ones. Let me start again. Those souls help me stay real. I began to wrestle with my own words.
Did you?
Did I consume your aunt? Is that what you were asking me?
Yes.
Unfortunately, no. Her soul had left her body before her body died. Had I been in the emergency room, as she laid there coughing up blood, then I would have gobbled her right up. I began to weep.
You're a monster!
One of his smooth, elongated fingers stretched out and scooped up my tears from my cheek. He licked his finger dry and then shivered as if in some sort of ecstasy. Tears, he moaned. Such a great side dish. Sadness tastes like a well-marinated steak.
Leave her alone!
My cousin Gary shouted and dove towards him with the handsaw. It was a valiant effort. Probably the bravest thing I've ever seen my cousin do. The saw ripped into the gut of Mr. Sin. The thing let go of me and backed away a bit. Examined the saw stuck into its midsection, and then laughed a moment. He gripped the handle of it and pulled it out, dropping it to the ground. A silvery liquid began to seep out of the wound. He tried to stop it with his hand and looked at it dripping from his long, grotesque fingertips. A frown showed up on his face, and he looked over at Gary. "What have you done, young man?" It wasn't an angry question. It was more of an unbelieving of what had occurred. Mr. Sin sauntered over to Gary and grabbed him by the throat and hiked him into the air. Gary gasped and fought for air as he was lifted and pinned to the ceiling. Mr. Sin then began to shape his other hand into a fork and began spinning it towards the floor. "No matter, young brat. I'll just grab me some medicine from my stock." Sparks began to shoot from his fingertips, as if he created friction with the air around him. A green circle began to form, and suddenly there was an opening in the floor. A large glowing circle that housed an ethereal river within it.
Let's see what's on the menu, shall we?
Mr. Sin grinned a horribly large grin, still holding Gary to the ceiling. He dipped his arm into the portal and dug around until he found something. He pulled his arm out, and there was a purple mist writhing around his arm. I think it was a soul that was drifting through that river of death. Though, I don't know, death seemed like the wrong word. I was too young then to contemplate the afterlife, but I think that's what it was. After life. I've come a long way since that horrible night. I was a good student. I graduated top of my class in 1978 from Bryant Lake High School. Then on to St. Teresa's College in Winona, Minnesota, with a bachelor's in business. I had taken philosophy classes during that time, and it changed my thinking on the things they taught me when I was a young Sunday school student. To me, it's not us that dies. It's our bodies. Inside, the spark that makes us who we are keeps going on to other things. Maybe not reincarnation, but something else. I took comfort in that when my parents died. This thing, this monster that called itself Mr. Sin, was feeding on that spark. It had some uncanny access to this river of energies, and he used it like a fishing hole of sorts. He had to be stopped. That much I knew in my 9-year-old brain. But how? Mr. Sin sipped at the purple mist in his hand like it was a wad of spaghetti noodles. His body seemed to get bigger, longer, and more solid. He swung Gary into the refrigerator units, and I heard something crack. Oh my God, I thought. He's killing him. There was still some kick left in Gary, though. Mr. Sin began to lick at the tears and the blood that was coming out of his face. Kellyanne, bless her, had grabbed a large needle that had a tube attached to it. It was a tool they used to bleed the corpses with. She ran at Mr. Sin and rammed it deep into his back. He dropped Gary, who thudded to the ground, and laid there unconscious. I thought maybe that he was dead, but he moaned and stirred in a heap at Mr. Sin's feet. He was trying to grab Kelly when I sort of tackled her and rolled with her out of the way. We rolled under one of the metal tables. "Come here, you little shits!" he bellowed. We had heard him, and that was a good thing. "I will torture all of you and savor the liquids that come out of your fear-stricken bodies." "I need you to run," I said to Kellyanne. "No," she pleaded. "If I try, he'll get me." "I'm going to distract him, and while I do, I need you to run and get my dad or your dad. Please, don't make me." "I can't make you, Kelly, but if you don't, we'll all die." Her bottom lip quivered at a moment, and then she nodded. I bolted out from cover and slid between Mr. Sin's legs. He turned to grab me, and Kellyanne made it out of the room. I grabbed the metal door that had been knocked out earlier and tried to use it as a shield. Mr. Sin knocked it free from my grip and closed his long, bony fingers around my neck. He tightened them slowly. "I will eat your soul, young one," he hissed. "I will eat you slow and delight in the suffering you'll experience at mine own hands." I didn't know how I was able to stay conscious. Black dots began forming around me, and I felt like I was no longer attached to my body. Was this thing eating me already?
Get your hands off her, you shit!
Came a familiar voice. Mr. Sin turned, and floating above the portal was my aunt. Or it looked to be something similar to my Aunt Dottie.
Someone you know?
Mr. Sin asked, and began to grin that horrible grin again. That's my Aunt Dottie, I said in awe.
Is this true?
He asked the apparition.
We don't have names over here,
Auntie said. You know that.
Ah, yes. I've gotten so used to the way things are here. Naming things, naming offspring and pets, carrying around identities as if that's important. But it must be important, because you are here on behalf of the child, and you're almost corporeal.
Time to go, kiddo, she said to me. Get your cousin and go. But, no buts, there's no time. I gathered up Gary, who looked like a mess. There was internal bleeding somewhere because it was coming from his mouth, and his breathing sounded a little bit like a gurgle. Behind us, Mr. Sin had climbed into the portal and looked as if he was going to feed on my Auntie Dot.
This will be delightful,
he hissed at her and grabbed a hold of her shoulders.
Notice anything different?
She said with a familiar grin.
What are you on about? I feel ecstatic. I'm about to feed on a Wait. What are you doing?
You have a hold of my shoulders.
Yes, but that's because Wait! Stop that!
Stop what?
You're doing something. You're
feeding on you?
Yes, you're feeding. How?
Mr. Sin was shrinking, and he returned to the white, waxy figure he was before. He removed his hands from my aunt, and his fingers, though still hideously long, were beginning to shrink.
Stop this!
He whimpered. Auntie Dot looked over his shoulder and straight at me. Time to go, Lynn. There are things here little girl need not see. Show's over.
But
I wanted to tell her. I wanted to ask her a million questions. But I only said, I love you, Auntie. I'll miss you. I love you too, little one. Now go. You've already seen too much. I struggled helping Gary up the steps. I didn't know what I just witnessed, and I probably never will. Kellyanne had told our parents everything. They stood there with an incredulous look on their faces. When I showed up with a broken Gary leaning on my shoulder, leaking blood from his mouth, they had all run to us.
What happened?
Uncle Frank asked. I didn't know how to answer that question. Kelly had already leaked the whole truth and nothing but the truth. But they were adults, and we were children, with overactive imaginations.
I fell,
Gary said.
I went to go back downstairs to see a dead body, and I tripped, and I fell down the steps. My father asked if that was true, but Gary came to our defense. I tried to get them to come with me, he said, but Lynn said she didn't want to get into trouble anymore and wanted to respect her auntie. Kelly stayed Kelly stayed back with her until they heard me yelling after I fell. I'm really sorry. But Kelly looked hurtfully at the both of us and then lowered her head in defeat. I guess that's what happened. Uncle Frank took Gary to the hospital. He was treated for cracked ribs and a few cuts and bruises. We were all grounded for a month. Worst of all, I disappointed my parents. I couldn't look my mom in the eye ever again. And that, my friends, is the end of Aunt Dottie's Wake. I hope y'all enjoyed that one. I had an issue with Mr. Sin's voice. And originally, I thought he would have a voice like that old creepy preacher from the Poltergeist movies. That, hello, little dearie. Would you like me to sing you a song? God is in his holy temple. Anybody remember that guy? Anybody watch Poltergeist movies? Anyway, that's who I was thinking of when I created that character. So anyhow, that is the end of that. We're now going on to chapter 10 next week on Wednesday. And we'll be reading Joe Takes a Dirt Nap. Good, Jessica. I'm glad you loved it. I love it. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you very much. And yes, holy crud, Kevin. So it does my heart good to know that you guys enjoy my stories. It actually kind of pumps me up to write again. Yeah, anyhow, I think over the weekend, if I have some time, I'm going to try writing again. But I am going to put some prompts up. I did put up a event notice for Bobby and I's gig this weekend. It's on Sunday. Sunday at 4:30, we will be under the tent. And what that means, I don't know. Because the only thing I've ever done for Farm City Fun Fest was I was a bouncer at the street dances. So, and I didn't spend too much of time under the tent, but good job, Chief. Thank you very much, Chuck. So yeah, we're going to be under the tent, whatever that means. We are going to be following the Shells beer band, and which is kind of a big thing for Bobby and I. Yeah, we start at 4:30. We'll be ending at 7. We might go a little longer, maybe. We'll see. I believe they're going to want to tear down after 7 o'clock. So, honestly, please don't stop. Well, I don't want to stop, Jessica. I really don't. I love telling stories to you guys. It's just a matter of what story I'm going to read to you guys, because I'm all out of horror stories. So, I'll put up some prompts probably in a couple of weeks to see what you guys want to do from here. And whatever you guys say is what I guess we'll do. Unless, Bobby wants Christmas stories. You're welcome, Bobby. Thank you for all your guys' support. All of you. I can't thank you guys enough. I know we're
What's funny is when we do these live things, um, there's usually 4 or 5 of you here. Sometimes there's more. I actually get a bigger draw for the Tunes for Tuesday thing. I think that has a lot to do with Mr. Wildhair, because he invites everybody in his family all the way down to the fifth cousins and everybody he knows, and he knows about 1 million people in the world. So, and also others, some of you other people have also invited your friends and stuff to come to these live streams, which I very much appreciate. You've definitely grown my page, which is also very much appreciated. I've kind of given up on this generating income. Christmas stories. No, no, Kevin. Kind of given up on the earning any money off of this stuff that I do. I mean, Bobby and I will definitely make money doing gigs with our little band. But as far as these live streams go, I've given up on the monetizing it, and trying to get more followers. I think I need to just do what I'm doing, let it flow, and whatever happens, happens. Right? Right. Also, I've heard that the only way to go viral, as they say, is to post something every day and do it all morning, noon, and night. And I don't friggin' have time to do that. Maybe when I retire I would, but I don't know. So I have a couple of Christmas horror stories that I've read to you guys, actually, about the Anti-Claus. And in the new book, I'm going to be writing probably the what do they call it? The sequel to those two stories. And it may be the demise of the Anti-Claus. I'm not totally sure yet, but anyhow, so we will be hearing from him again. Yeah, so I'm going to throw some ideas at you guys here in the upcoming weeks. And please, 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 please vote. And let me know what you guys want to do. So, Christmas stories are out. Kevin and Bobby Santa Claus Paulson. Stories about Lemmy are out as well. Mr. Northwick. So, but yeah, we'll have something. It's got to be something horror related, or it doesn't have to be horror. It can be that novel I'm working on as well. That actually has ghosts in it. So there's that. So anyhow, thank you guys very much again for coming, like you always do, every night. I appreciate you 1,000-fold. And it's also a great way for me to keep in touch with some of you guys that I haven't seen or visited in a while. So I hope you guys are having a great summer. I hope you have a great rest of your week. I hope to see some of you out at the park here in Winthrop on Sunday. For mine and Bobby's gig. We are going to be under the name Broken Bird and Wild Hair is what we are billed as. So please come out 4:30. Actually come into town a little earlier. Make a day of it. They're going to have fair food there. You come out and check out the Winthrop Mercantile. They'll be open. And yeah, so come out and then enjoy some music at the end of the night with me and Bobby. So we'd love to have you. We'd love to see you. Yeah, should be a good time. So until then, I will hopefully see you folks either Sunday or I will see you next Tuesday. I'm not sure if Bobby will be there on Tuesday, but you will see at least see me there Tuesday, hopefully. Poetry is a good idea as well, Bobby, but I was thinking of doing that on like a different night. So, poetry I think is, yeah, it just kind of needs its own night, and then we'll keep Wednesday as a story day. So, but yeah, good thoughts, good thoughts. Keep some badges around. That's absolutely right, Chuck. All right, you guys. Love you very much. Mwah. Peace and a bottle of hair grease. Keep sipping. Have a beautiful evening. I am out of my mind.